Let me know when you, okay. So let me go ahead and then we'll get that Facebook started. Okay, I've hit the button, so it should be, we should be live. We want to welcome everyone for coming. We are excited about this forum. We have Mutaki Akbar as our moderator, and we are ready to get started. It is just now 2 o'clock.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
We are ready to get started. It is just now 2 o'clock.
Let me turn off my. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. All right, there we go. Technical difficulties, but we could get it going. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mutaki Akbar, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. And I want to welcome everybody to the Democratic Candidate Forum for Tallahassee City Commission Seat 4, which is our mayoral primary election. This candidate forum is sponsored by the Leon County Democratic Executive Committee. So again, I'm Mutaki Akbar, I'm your moderator. I'm also the president of the Tallahassee branch of the NAACP. I'm a local attorney here in Tallahassee. My office is proudly in Frenchtown. And we did that intentionally in order to be a presence in the community. We do mainly criminal defense and personal injury and family law as well. Just to give you a brief background of who I am before we get started, I'm born and raised right here in Tallahassee. I grew up over in the Calla neighborhood off of Lake Bradford, went to FAMU DRS from kindergarten to 12th grade. I left Tallahassee after graduating high school, went to college, and I left for 10 years. And I was one of those people who said that I'm leaving Tallahassee and I'm not coming back. And I moved back probably about 15 years ago, and it was the best decision that I ever made, coming back to Tallahassee. And it was the best decision I ever made because, Tallahassee is such a jewel. It's a gem. It's so much here. It's a family. It's a community. So I benefited a great deal, like business-wise, but I also benefit every day from having a connection with everyday people like you all. And so when I was asked to be a part of these candidate forums, and specifically this race, I jumped at the opportunity because I strongly believe that these candidate forums help inform voters. It helped inform voters about who our candidates are, and also help inform us about who our incumbents are. And I strongly believe that an informed voter becomes an energetic voter, and we absolutely need energetic voters to show up in August and then to show back up in November to vote up and down this ticket. And, this Democratic ticket is very, very important. And I think if we focus on these local elections, which really impact our lives directly, we could kind of spread that message throughout the ticket and in effect our livelihoods, obviously our livelihoods, up and down that ticket. And what we saw yesterday, even though we got a preview of it, it's a real example of why voting matters and why the people who we elect can have a direct impact on what happens to us day to day, all the way down to our bodies. And so we have to pay attention. We have to be intentional about what's going on. And I'm gonna just read from a quote. Given the gravity of the moment we find ourselves in regarding yesterday's overturning of Roe v. Wade, it's even more vital that we participate in the political process as best we can to fight for women's rights, civil rights, justice, and economic equity. So thank you for tuning in here today. We'll move forward. We have a very, very packed agenda, so we're going to try to move this forward as fast as possible. So what we're going to do first is allow our candidates to give introductory comments. They'll each have 2 minutes in order to give their introductory comments, and it's going to be a strict 2 minutes. So when you hear that sound, try to finish your sentence. And what we're going to do, we're going to start off going alphabetical order. By order of last name. So we'll start with Mayor John Dailey, then to Kristin Dozier, and then Whitfield Leland. So let me get my finger on the timer. And Mayor Dailey, you are up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Go ahead.
It's good to see you. And Mataki, thanks for hosting today. Certainly do appreciate it. Appreciate your comments that you just offered. And like everybody, I think we are all devastated by the news yesterday. But this is a very important forum, and I'm glad to participate. And I want to thank all my Democratic friends for joining in today, and those that are watching live on Facebook and all other platforms. I've been a lifelong Democrat all my life. So has my wife, Jenny, my parents. We've all been Democrats. We support the Democratic platform. We support the Democratic Party. And I love Tallahassee. I'm from Tallahassee too, Mataki. And I also went away, but came back because this is the town that I want to give back to. This is the town that Jenny and I wanted to raise our boys in. And we're just proud to be part of Tallahassee. I've had the opportunity to serve on the county commission, which was a wonderful opportunity. But for the past 3.5 years, it has been an absolute pleasure to serve as the mayor of Tallahassee. And it's been an interesting 3.5 years. We faced a lot of challenges as a community, but there's one thing that we've had constant, and that's constant leadership in the mayor's office. Yes, folks, we've been able to come together and move the needle and actually do some amazing things, but we still have challenges that we have to face. And we need continued leadership that can move us in the right direction. So I'm asking for your vote and your support. And I'm looking forward to a great candidate forum today and answering your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we get you. Can you hear us? We can't see you anymore.
Sorry, my computer went down for a second. Kristin, you're up.
Then let me find you first and get you on the spotlight. There you go.
Thank you so much. So I'm good to go, Marsh?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you all. I'm Kristin Dozier. I am currently a county commissioner, as you probably know, and I'm running for mayor. Really want to appreciate the Leon County Democrat Party for hosting this important forum. Mutaki, as you said, informed voters is so critical in every election, and particularly this year with so many big issues and so many candidates. These forums are really important. So thank you for that. I am a lifelong Democrat. I was born here in Tallahassee, so that might be a theme here we have today. And it's been a great honor to serve on the county commission for the last 12 years, or almost 12 years. But I'm someone who, if I see a need, I want, and I feel like I can do something about it, that's where I'm going to put my energy. And that just made me decide to get into the mayor's race. I am running for mayor because we need a different approach. We have waited too long, we've been through too much, and people are struggling right now. We have a lot of good things going for us, but we are being held back by some significant issues. We need a more transparent and responsive city government. We need to end the turf wars and the personal attacks. And importantly, we need a mayor who makes decisions that support our businesses, that support our individuals throughout the community, families, and is in the best interest of everyone. It's time to focus on what Tallahassee needs, what all of us need. We need a strong mayor who looks for opportunities, who listens to what you need in your neighborhoods, your businesses, and one who works with others. A strong mayor does not engage in political retribution. A strong mayor doesn't need to. Strong mayor doesn't engage in pettiness and bickering, and he doesn't shut down meetings when he doesn't like what someone else might be saying. Strong mayor encourages civil debate, wants to hear from people who disagree with them, and a strong mayor knows there is strength in diversity of opinions, of perspectives, of experience. and we encourage people to have an open dialogue, that's what's going to make Tallahassee a better place. It's working together. And we need a mayor who will listen to all of us and avoid conflicts and look for ways to work more efficiently, because we do have some very important challenges that we have to address right now. Again, we've got a lot of great things going for us, but these challenges are holding us back. And it's time to have new leadership in the mayor's office and a different approach to city governance. This is a moment that has a critical decision. Do we remain as we are and let a small group of people who think they know what's best for us make major decisions that impact all of us? Do we remain in the shadows with the lack of transparency, or do we chart a new course? I know the people of Tallahassee are telling us no more business as usual. I hear that. No more status quo. I agree. I will bring real change to City Hall as your next mayor. I'm asking for your support, for your vote, and I look forward to talking with you and hearing from you during this forum and throughout the summer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Leland, you're up.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? I really want to thank the Democratic Party for hosting this event. Thank you, Mutaki, for moderating it. My name is Whitfield Leland. I was born and raised in Tallahassee, grew up in the Frenchtown area. Actually have an office in the Frenchtown area. About 7 years ago, we started programming called Link Up, me and Darren Davis. And we used to always just go to the city and try to ask them to implement this type of programming, that type of programming, or this type of, to get something done in the communities, because we seen where it was going as far as the gun violence, like, and talking to the officials and seeing what's going on in the community, how we just displacing people and people just becoming homeless, and we're not doing nothing about it. And then the officials that say they're doing something about it, I mean, what's doing behind closed doors? We need a mayor that's going to be open, honest, and transparent, and understand that everybody has to sit to the table, not just one specific group, not just one interest of wealthy people, everybody. And we really need to focus on our dealing with poverty. We spend all this money in programming for gun violence. Guns don't shoot themselves. It's people. The people, and if you look at it, the people who are in those situations, 9 out of 10, they're homeless and they don't have anything. And if we address those issues in our community, I really think that, you know, our community will come together, and we can be in a better place as a community. Until we address the poverty in our community, we can say what we want to say. It's going to always be the same. And addressing and taking care of the least of these is how we balance everything out. And the reason why I'm running for, and that's the reason why I'm running for mayor, because I'm tired. We need somebody that's going to be transparent, somebody that's going to be unapologetic about changing city government. And it's not just the mayor's office we need to change. We need to change the county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'm glad we had that time, because my computer literally shut down on me during the start of it. So I think I'm back up now. And so we are going to keep moving forward. So we'll have time at the end to take audience questions. So for everybody who's viewing, both on Facebook Live and who's actually in the Zoom, on Facebook Live, if you could type your questions into the chat. If you're on the Zoom, you can put your questions in the chat as you think of them. We have co-hosts that will be monitoring the questions as they come in. If you want to ask your questions live today, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, which is found on the bottom of your screen in the reactions button. Push reactions and the option to raise your hand will come up. The co-host will prompt me and let me know who has a question. I will call your name and you will be unmuted at that time. But first, we will now move into the question and answer portion of the program. As a reminder to the candidates, you will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and I will be keeping time, and I will notify you when your time is up. Please respect the time limits. It's okay to finish your comments in under 2 minutes, but please do not feel pressured to take every answer to the limit. We will begin alphabetically by first name and rotate who goes first from there. So we're going into dealing with our budget. So about the city budget, John, staff has informed the city commission that we're facing a deficit this year and a bigger one next year. The two biggest expense categories in the general budget are police and administration. What do you think the city should do? Should the city consider cuts in any specific areas? Should the city engage in independent performance audit to assist the city in determining where cuts are warranted? And last, should the city raise the millage rate? I know there's a lot of questions in one, so if you need me to repeat, just let me know.
Thank you, Mataki. And I think I could do it within the 2-minute limit as well. Let me first answer the question about the audit. I'm very proud of the fact that the city just got their audit back and we had a clean slate. Over $1 billion budget. We didn't have any issues that needed to be addressed during this budget cycle. So your budget and your budget system is very efficient. We just got our audit back and very proud of that. I think the county did as well. We do a pretty good job in this community, both on the city and the county side, of making sure that we do have clean audits. So we're in the middle of the budget cycle right now. And I would answer your question by saying, yes, everything is still on the table. This is why we have long budget cycles. This is why we have workshops. This is why we open it up and listen to the community of what's important to them. How do we move forward as a community? This is why we've held budget workshops outside of City Hall. We were just, we were down in the Bond community at the last budget workshop, and we will continue to do so. This is part of the struggles of moving forward to making sure, because by law, we have to have a balanced budget. We cannot operate in deficit like the federal government. So you are correct. It takes good, strong leadership to be able to fulfill the needs of the community, to make sure that we have open communication with all citizens so that they can participate as well. And I believe in the budget process. Now, we will get our actuals from the property appraiser's office coming in, I think, July 1. And we have a budget workshop mid-July as well. That will give us the most accurate picture of where we are. And yeah, we'll probably have to make some tough decisions. And I would say that everything should be on the table and up for discussion to make sure that we have a balanced budget. We are not raising the millage rate this year. Moving forward in future years, I think is the responsibility of local elected officials, and I've done this nearly for 16 years in office. Every year you sit down, you look at the 5-year projections as well, and you make the best decision that you can in regards to the millage rate. Do you keep the millage rate? Do you expand the millage rate? Or do you go to the rollback rate? And so we are not moving the millage rate this year, but we will go back into discussions next year as the budget approaches. Great question. Thank you.
All right. And you did it just under the 2 minutes. All right. So next question, Kristin, same question. Where to cut? Should we raise the millage rate? And should a performance audit be conducted to determine what the city should cut and by how much? And what should the city do to balance the budget?
Thank you, Mutaki. This is an important issue because the city budget is quite large. We know that. When we come into the budget discussions at the city or county, we're really only talking about a small portion of that in our workshops. There's a lot of things that are just ongoing every year. And I think that performance audit is really critical. It's long overdue at the city. I'm glad that both the city and county have clean audits, as we should, from that, what we're required to do every year, but that's not the same as really looking for efficiencies and analyzing what is happening in each department, seeing if there's ways we can cut costs. I firmly believe there are ways we can cut costs within the city. I want to be clear. We've got a lot of great folks in the city. We got a lot of great programs. So it's, we shouldn't be looking to cut critical services. I think we can just be more efficient in how we offer that. One of the ways we do this at the county, and the mayor knows this well, it started in 2013. We have a program that incentivizes and really supports staff to be creative every year and look for ways to cut money. This year for the 23 budget, we're looking at about $3.5 million that staff identified as cuts. And we have an awards program for that. So it allows our employees to get very creative and have those ideas come from every source. Since 2013, we've saved over $60 million for the community. Those are some ideas that I think we need to bring into the city. And it's not just about what the county does, for sure. The city is unique. And so we've got to reflect on what the city departments and the services they provide. But the performance audit, we've got to start there. I don't agree we need to raise the millage rate. I'm very proud that we've not done that in my entire time on the county commission. I don't think we need to do that. We can look at reducing our debt.
Time is up.
I can't hear your time and talking. I can hear people, so just give me a wave.
Okay.
Okay. There you go. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right. Mr. Leland, same question. Where to cut? Should we raise the millage rate? And should we conduct a performance audit? What do you think the city should do to balance the budget?
Great question. Yes, there should be a performance audit. I think that financial and performance is two different things. And what we've seen in the last, 6 months, we've seen, six promotions, over $300,000, in raises. Do we need that? Was those positions warranted? And when we talk about balancing the budget and we steady adding to our payroll, that don't make sense to me. No, I don't feel like, I feel like if we govern ourselves appropriately with the money we have, we don't have to raise the millage rate. So, and I am more than open and willing, if a performer audit was done and they said we don't need this, they suggest this, and we put it at the community and the community feel the same way, that's the way we roll. It has to be a collective. It's not what one individual thinks. So no, I don't think we need to raise the millage rate. And yes, I do think a performance audit would be done. And yes, I would be willing to look at the cuts and bring it to the community to see how they feel about it. And if we all agree, we will make the cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Dailey, I'm gonna give you, you might have missed the performance audit part of that question. So I'll just allow you to answer that. Should we conduct a performance audit?
Well, we do, Mataki. The difference between the city and the county is one of the appointed officials at the city of Tallahassee is the Auditor Inspector General. So we audit every department on a rotating basis. And when we're done auditing every department, we go back and we begin all over again. This is on a continuous basis. So not only did we get a clean audit on the budget process and the budget itself, but we continuously audit internally throughout the course of the year. And once we have audited every single department, we begin again. So the answer is yes, we should do performance budgeting auditing. And yes, we currently do that because one of our appointed officials is the Auditor Inspector General. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, so next up is the hot button topic that we've been discussing for over a year now. And I started to suggest that we took a shot every time this came up, but I don't think that'd be appropriate for a debate. But so next, I'm sure you could guess by now, we're going to talk about Doak Campbell Stadium. So recently, one of the most talked about issues was the vote of the Blueprint Board to borrow against future tax revenues to give $20 million of economic development funds to Florida State University to repair Doak Campbell Stadium. Blueprint staff justified this as a project to generate jobs in Tallahassee, but to many residents, it seemed that giving all this money to FSU did not make sense considering the needs of our city. So we're going to start with Kristin. Explain your vote against giving $20 million to FSU for the stadium and tell us what your approach would be to managing growth in our city. Second part of that question, what do you propose to improve the allocation of Blueprint taxpayer monies?
Just a clarification, you said to manage growth, you mean economic development?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So there's a reason, as you say, that this topic keeps coming back up. And there were some people who thought it was going to fade away after the February vote or the September vote. But it has stuck out because, from my perspective, the Doak Campbell vote was anti-jobs. It was anti-growth. And what I mean by that is FSU is an incredible powerhouse in our community. Both universities are, and TCC. We are so lucky to have them. Football in both universities is an incredible economic engine. But this money was set aside for a specific purpose, to fill a need that we didn't have funding for, to create workforce training programs, to help grow businesses locally, recruit businesses, to create new good paying jobs. I bet almost every issue we talk about today is going to circle back to the need for good jobs and good training programs. This was the funding that we could use for that. The first 2 years of the tax that started in 2020, OEV and the board committed $22 million. There was over 3,000 jobs that were projected for that. For our $27 million investment in structural improvements in the stadium, there was a projected 34 permanent jobs. Now you'll hear others say construction jobs and other types of jobs. That is true, but those aren't permanent jobs. And they're not the kind of jobs that really allow people to build a career, to have more money in their pocket, to be able to afford rent, to buy a home. Those are the types of programs we need. So how I would have used that funding and what I think we need to do going forward, because I know your bell's going to go off, I would have looked at some of the similar type of programs that we had in the first 2 years. One of my favorites is our revolving loan fund. We've given over $600,000 to minority and women-owned businesses in town, and we need to keep doing these types of programs.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Leland, you said you would have voted against the $20 million grant to FSU. Why? And what would be your approach to managing growth, economic development growth in our city? What would you do to improve how blueprint taxpayer monies are allocated?
I'm sorry. The reason why I would have voted for it is because the reason why I would have voted no is because what they wanted the money for. I have to be very, very, very honest. When we look at the overall makeup of OEV and we look at what we have funded and what we're supposed to fund it, and when you look at the people who have been funded through OEV, I mean, none of them was African Americans as woman or male, you know what I mean? So when we look at, and we have a director that's up there, so I'm like, why is this not happening? So, and I'm gonna be honest, I think that from the top to the bottom, man, we need to clean house, get some new leadership, even in the blueprint, even in the intergovernmental blueprint, you know, and get more community engagement involvement. That's what it takes. It takes more community engagement. It takes the community. It takes those directors of these departments really listening to the community leaders and the people of the community and getting things done. That's not happening. And if that's not happening, we just like, you know, the mayor's office, we not content with the mayor's office. We want to move him. We got to remove them too. So that's how I feel about that.
So Mayor Dailey, you've called Commissioner Dozier's vote, and I believe, Leader, can you mute your?
You're breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that, Mataki?
Yeah, I think we have some feedback. I'm not sure why. All right. So
If you have another tab open, it could be that. I don't know if you want to try closing any other tabs that you have, Mataki.
I
That'll
don't
often-
see the other ones
okay.
open. All right. Is that better?
It does sound better.
That's much
All right.
better. Yes, sir.
Okay. So Mayor Dailey, you've called Commissioner Dozier's vote against $20 million to FSU for stadium repair anti-growth. Why do you think giving this money affects was pro-growth for the city and the best allocation of blueprint taxpayer money?
Okay, I'm still getting a little feedback, but I think I understand the question, and I heard the original question. And yes, I support Florida State's investment in Doak Campbell, just like I support the investment in Bragg Stadium when the president came and said that if we don't help out at Bragg Stadium, they're not going to be able to play a home football game. And I supported the investment at the TCC Stadium as well for baseball, because we have $1 billion tourism budget here in Tallahassee, and it is driven. And this isn't just me, this is from staff, and my colleagues will agree. We have $1 billion tourism budget that is driven by collegiate sports. We're a college town. And to say that only 32 jobs are created is not true. We're not taking into consideration those restaurants on Gain Street that benefit from game day activities. We're not talking about all the other benefits that come to our community. It's an $80 million annual return on investment. Just like saying that it drains our economic development fund, that wasn't true either. At our last meeting, staff told us there's $12 million left in that fund. 3.5 of that is still unencumbered. So we know that we get a strong return on this investment. We know that the collegiate sports arena is the largest driver of our tourism industry. Now, how do I support moving forward? Well, I'm your only candidate that actually voted in favor of the blueprint budget. That's $270 million worth of projects on the south side of Tallahassee. I believe that strong private investment follows strong public investment. But when we have candidates that vote against blueprint budgets, that vote against the bonding issue, they're saying, I don't want to go forward. Now, they might say, I'm not going forward because of this one particular aspect of the budget. And I get that. I do. Had we had a conversation, they said, I'm going to vote for the budget, but I don't like this one issue. I get that. But when you vote against the entire budget to make a point, you got to stand on your record. So I believe in public investment. I believe in public infrastructure. We know that solid private infrastructure follows. Look at Cascades Park as a prime example. We know that the collegiate sports arena, especially football, is the #1 tourism driver in our community. We know the return on investment is $80 million on an annual basis. We know that we have economic development dollars that are still in play, and we're ready to move forward. And we need a mayor that can move this community forward. That's why we have, in the past year alone, over $850 million worth of private investment in our community, and one of the strongest economies per capita in the state of Florida to this day.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me better now?
A little bit, a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay, I will continue to try to work on it. But if you can hear me, at least we get this question, the next question started. So I appreciate you all's answers on Doak, and we know that's a hot button issue, and we'll most likely continue to talk about it. Next, I'd like to move to poverty and inequality in our city. And we'll start with you, Mr. Leland. As an activist, how have you tackled the problems of poverty, inequality, homelessness, and affordable housing? And as mayor, what would you do?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, that's one of my biggest one of my biggest things is I really want to fight poverty, and I'm not speaking about giving second harvest and them handing out food. That's like giving an elephant a piece of bubble gum. Fighting poverty means strengthening nonprofits with staffing, not programming, so that they will have enough boots on the ground to dig into the problem and identify what really makes a difference. Fighting poverty means building families. We can address issues with kids all day, but if we're taking them away, addressing those issues, and then putting them right back in the same environment, what we're doing, that's no good. So we have to actually get in the homes. And I propose that we have to identify these issues with the grassroots nonprofits so that they can address those issues and have adequate staff to be able to provide an effective change.
Okay, who is up next for that question?
All right, I'm sorry.
No worries.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
All right. All right, next up, Mayor Dailey, how have you, through the city's actions, tackled the problems of poverty, inequality, homelessness, and affordable housing? What are the results, and what else can be done?
This is going to be a tough one to answer in 2 minutes, but we'll try, Mutaki. As the mayor of Tallahassee, I campaigned on the fact that the city did not have a strategic plan and we needed to create one and put it in place. As a result, we created the first strategic plan of the city of Tallahassee. One of the key tenets of that plan is affordable housing. And I'm proud to say that this year, the city has over 1,900 units in the pipeline to come on board, more than the past 40 years put together. And the reason why is we've made affordable housing a key priority of the city. Are we done? Absolutely not. We have a lot of work that still needs to be done. When we talk about the mental health issues in our community, it's very important to realize that COVID hit our community hard and hit different parts of our community very hard. That's the reason why, as mayor, I brought the idea of the creation of the team, our mobile response unit, through the 911 dispatch to the table, and it passed unanimously, and it's been a proven success. We are also one of the only cities that I am aware of that actually provides free mental health services in the neighborhoods for the residents of the city of Tallahassee, something I'm very proud of. But we can talk about all the different aspects and all these hurdles that we have. And one common denominator that I have seen is economic opportunities and job creation. And I am that mayor that's been leading the charge to create jobs in this community. Folks, if you look, we just a couple of weeks ago broke ground on the international facility at the airport, which is going to create over 1,000 jobs. And just 2 days ago, we broke ground as well in an announcement. Excuse me, we didn't break ground yet. We took the first step at the city commission meeting on Project Alpha out at the airport as well, which is going to be another $150 million investment with over 1,000 jobs created. It's about providing economic opportunity, working with our higher educational partners to make sure that we have a properly trained workforce, that we provide these opportunities so people can get great paying jobs. Providing housing, making sure that we grow appropriately, mental health, physical health, they all play in together.
All right, thank you. All right, next, Kristin, the problems of poverty, inequality, homelessness, and affordable housing seems related. While you've been on the county commission, some people may have been housed or otherwise helped, but there seems to be insufficient progress. What have you done? What are the results? And what else can be done?
So the city and county jointly have worked on a number of issues in the last few years. And I will admit, it was painfully slow going for a while. And we finally started to get that unlocked. We created a land trust, working with Tallahassee Lenders Consortium, others. We have a program to donate land to Habitat for Humanity for affordable housing. These are really innovative ideas we have seen in other areas. We've also done a tremendous amount working with our homeless advocacy providers and helping people find safe and secure homes. One of the biggest things I think we can do is more collaboration. One of the challenges I hear all the time, and this has been going on for years, but certainly in the last few years, is how difficult it is to partner with the city. That it really is a city knows best mentality. They want to control some of the programs. And what we've seen in the county, one of the things that we just saw in our budget last week was about food insecurity. We hosted a series of town hall meetings and we got some really creative ideas. And the county is going to fund a mobile pantry. I kind of agree with Whitfield that that's not the only thing we need to do, but it's a critical need right now. And then we need to do so much more. The last thing I'm going to hit on is the jobs and economic development. The mayor can say that he is the economic development, the job creating mayor, but his record does not prove that. I'm glad that we have both supported a lot of the same initiatives. Danfoss, Amazon, a lot of these different things that wasn't loved by everybody in town, but we both supported those things. But we could have done so much more had we not given all of our money away to Doak. The workforce training programs that he's talking about and other things, those are critical needs. Loans for small businesses, and particularly our minority and women small businesses. We have a loan program, but we could have done so much more. Yes, we have $3 million left for the next few years, but that pales in comparison to what we would have had if we had not made that decision to fund DOKE. And we really need to get creative and work with everyone in the community to get that job done.
All right, thank you. All right, Tallahassee has a problem with violent crime. The problem has not gone away, as Sheriff McNeil's recent homicide report makes clear. Mayor Dailey, you have a broad perspective, having served for 12 years on the county commission and now as mayor for 3.5 years. What has the city done to deal with the violent crime problem? Why hasn't it been effective, and what's next?
Taki, that's a great question. And I do think that we've been effective. I mean, look, you have to understand, and I think that we all agree, that the violent crime issue in Tallahassee wasn't created overnight, and we're not going to solve it overnight. But we need to move forward thinking creatively, supporting the programs that do work. Let's take, for example, Tempo. I know my colleagues might disagree with this, but Tempo is nationally recognized as an incredible program to stop gun violence. We aggressively go out and recruit youth off the streets. We give them economic opportunities. We give them great exposure. We help them finish school. We help them turn their lives around and get back on the streets. And as a result, over half of the students that participated had some type of brush with law enforcement going in, and coming out, we've had zero recidivism. We are nationally recognized for this. So our programs, Future Leaders Academy, these programs that are working, we need to support. The nonprofit agencies are doing great work, we need to support. But we still have a challenge. We still have the burden of gun violence in our community. That's why, as the mayor, I was the one that made the motion to set aside $1 million this year and for the next 4 years coming up to make sure we have proper funding as we are trying to identify additional programs, whether they are violence disruptors on the street at night, weekends, 7 days a week. What those programs are, I don't have an answer for you now. But as a community, when we come together and we have the opportunity to figure out the direction that we're going to go, I have made sure that we have the funding available so that we can properly fund these programs. It's going to take all of us continuously talking and coming to the table to move the needle forward in a positive manner.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Dailey. Commissioner Dozier, you're on your 3rd term on the county commission. What have you done to solve the problem, the crime problem? Why hasn't it worked? And what would you do as mayor?
Thank you, Intaki. This is an important issue that affects everyone in the community, but I think we really have to listen to and work with those communities that are hardest hit by the gun violence. And I think, so that's top line. I think we've got to have more community dialogue and engagement and go to where people are. I can't say exactly what's going to help everyone in that community without engaging with them and working with them to identify creative solutions. Now, for the county, we are a little different than the city, of course. The sheriff is an elected representative. The county funds all of the sheriff's departments, and we work collaboratively on that funding request, but that is an elected representative who has his own programs. However, the last few years, I am incredibly proud to have worked closely with Sheriff McNeil on a whole host of programs. The RISE initiative and the reentry programs. That really can help. There's a lot more work we could do there, but that could help end the recidivism. We have worked really closely together, the sheriff and I, on connecting with our homeless providers and other nonprofits to make sure there's a good communication and we know what resources people might need when they come out of the detention center. Now, that's one part of this. The other part is what we saw in the anatomy of the homicide report, and really highlighting the role of expulsions, those who are expelled from school and needing perhaps another place for them to go. I'm really proud to have supported the Council on the Status of Men and Boys. I think that initiative is really important with the city and the school system. The county stepped up first, and I'm really proud of that. And I look forward to that work continuing over the next year and a few years to see what else we can do. The last thing I will say is I think the Tempo program might be just fine. But every time we talk about this, that is the one example we hear. We need to add more programs and particularly focus on workforce training. And again, that comes back to funding. We need to get creative.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Mr. Leland, you have a very, very unique perspective that you bring to this race, and I think you'll bring to the mayor's office if elected. You've directly witnessed the results of Tallahassee's violent crime problem. Why is there so much violence in Tallahassee? And if you're mayor, what would you do to fix it?
Well, I do, like I go back to STEM to say that until we really truly address poverty, dealing with displaced people, mental health, homelessness, strengthening our nonprofit world that be able to provide more services on a larger scale. I will say this though, it's hard for me to believe that I'm not taking, and Timbo could get a award, a national award, and my thing is, if this program was so great, why our numbers keep going up, and why it's not attracting those individuals that actually are shooting the guns and not the ones that probably got a misdemeanor for trespassing or something of that nature. When we deal with violent crime, we're going to have to just deal with it head up. I do think, though, building better relationship with the police department and the residents, understanding, I think that we should launch a program where if you work in this community, you should stay in this community at least for 6 months, and or something to that nature, so that you can build a relationship with the citizens. But it's going to take a real approach, and it's going to take boots on the ground. But believe it or not, and I tell people this every day, if we fund our grassroots nonprofits properly, we will see a whole different outlook in those poverty communities.
Thank you, Mr. Leland. All right, so we're going to shift a bit. So Tallahassee is a naturally beautiful city with our oak trees, canopy roads, waterways, rolling hills, and amazing diversity of wildlife and plants. But like all of Florida, Tallahassee is a growing city. There is a perception among some Tallahassee residents that city growth management and planning primarily serve the wishes of developers. One of the most common complaints made about the Tallahassee environment is that our trees keep being taken down and our lakes are being polluted. Commissioner Dozier, what will you do if elected to manage growth and strengthen and improve enforcement of current tree protections on the part of the city and by developers? How would you improve and preserve our clean water and lakes, such as Lake Monson, especially as it relates to development and developers?
Thank you, Mintaki. These are big questions. It's a lot to pack in. First, I will continue to do what I have been doing for many years, and that is calling for reform in how our comprehensive plan process works, increasing public participation, and importantly, for both the city and county, focusing on having more incentives and flexibility in how people develop. Starting with the comprehensive plan approach and public participation. Years ago, Commissioner Miller and I were calling for reform of how we do the comprehensive plan. It's a very short cycle. Most people, including Mayor Dailey, look at what's presented to us from staff and say, yep, that looks great. Let's move on. We just went through a comprehensive plan cycle this spring, and it was really challenging. We have a process. A developer or a builder, someone has to meet the rules that we have existing at the time. But throughout this process, I asked for additional information. I got a motion approved to have a workshop in the fall, finally, after years, to look at this process, because we need more transportation information. We need more on environment before we see these large scale amendments. We do have a problem. So part of it, it's not the most sexy part. It's easy to vote on the project when it comes to you at the end, but you really need someone who's willing to dig in, look at the process and say, where can we improve? Because we don't need to keep getting the same type of cookie cutter information for every single proposal that we have come through our process. There's a whole lot more we can do. I'm proud of the work I did this spring, but we are limited. We are bound by some legal restrictions and by what we've got on the books right now. And we need to take a step to I had it right
on
there.
time. Made it this time. Mr. Leland, same question. What will you do if elected to manage growth and strengthen and improve enforcement of current tree protections on the part of the city and by developers? How would you improve and preserve our clean water in lakes such as Lake Munson, especially as it relates to development and developers?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would agree with Kristin Dozier. I think the comprehensive plan needs to be reformed. Second, I'm not real sure on environmental and things of that nature, but I will say this. For a tree ordinance, I like breeze. You know, I mean, I have tree. I like shade, so I get it, and I understand that. You know, when development comes around lakes, and you know, certain chemicals may get spilled in the lake, or pollution, and I get that. So I'm more than willing to, you know, save not only our people, but our land, our environment. All of it works hand in hand. So that's my answer. But I'm willing to be educated and make the best decision based on what the community feels and think, not what city staff think.
Thank you for that answer. Mayor Dailey, you voted to go ahead with one of the most controversial tree removals in recent years, the destruction of a stand of patriarch oaks near Boynton Steel. A historical Black neighborhood was demolished to make way for the Family Way extension and a holding pond. You also supported staff recommendations on the Walani development, the expansion of the urban services area on Woodville Highway and east of Southwood. Our trees are disappearing, primarily due to large-scale development such as these. Our lakes are being polluted, such as Lake Munson. Your website documents an urban forest master plan, but trees continue to come down. What do you think is wrong with the tree ordinance and rules that are designed to protect our clean water and lakes? If re-elected, what changes does the city need to make, especially as it relates to development and developers?
Mutaki, I don't get the same question as the other two candidates.
These are the questions I was given, so these are the questions that you get.
Sounds great. So we'll go with that then. Tallahassee is a Tree City USA. We've been named a Tree City USA, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 25 times. We have the largest tree canopy of any municipality in the United States, our size. The majority of our city is under a tree canopy, and we take it very seriously. That's the reason why, as mayor, we hired an urban forestry professional that manages our urban forestry and our trees to make sure that we can take care of the health of our trees. At the same time, just like every community across the United States, we're having conversations about growth and how to grow appropriately. And yes, I am in favor of expanding the urban services boundary, because that puts new developments not on septic, like my friends that vote against it would have you do. That falls into the aquifer and impacts our lakes and rivers, but it puts it on central sewer. This is why, as your mayor, I do vote in favor of the blueprint budget, which includes $270 million, a lot of it infrastructure. For instance, the stormwater system on FAMU Way that directly flows into Lake Munson. Now, we spent a lot of money, and I've supported it every step of the way. But when we have votes against these major infrastructure programs, this does contribute to the deterioration of some of our lakes. That's why it's important that we have the right people in place. And I do agree with my colleagues that we should have a comprehensive plan rewrite. That's why, as a county commissioner, and I appreciate Commissioner Dozier supporting me on this, I was the one that proposed and made the motion that we have a complete rewrite of our comprehensive plan. But folks, in order to meet the housing needs, very low income, moderate, workforce, every aspect of the housing spectrum, we have to build 29,000, 30,000 units between now and 2050 just to meet the need. So we have to have these conversations of how we grow. Urban redevelopment is prime, and we should take care of every opportunity that we possibly can. But at the same time, if we're going to grow out, we should make sure that we do it within the urban services boundary, so we do have the proper infrastructure to take care of wastewater and sewer. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And I just wanted to clarify that it was the same question. It just added, I believe, some commentary from the group who developed the questions, but it was essentially the same question. So I just wanted to clarify. All right. So now, since we're at the 2:54 mark, we're going to move to our audience questions. So remember, those who are live on Zoom, if you raise your hand, then you will be allowed to ask your questions. We received some questions from both our Zoom chat and from our Facebook group. And so I am going to go to a question now. And the question is, will you support in the future in order to reroute a road extension and dig a retention pond? And I believe this is similar to what we just asked. Well, that's the same question that we just asked. So let me go to some others. All right, Mayor Dailey and both candidates. The noise level in Tallahassee and stereos with humongous amps makes Tallahassee a third-class citizen and impacts everyone's quality of life. What are you going to do about it? It's an interesting question because I used to ride around with 12-inch speakers in my car. So glad I grew up a little bit, but we'll start with you, Mayor Dailey. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mitaki. And I agree. We have had some significant issues, especially in the wee hours of the morning with large pop-up parties that are taking place. Let me tell you what we've done. In the past couple months alone, we completely retooled our noise ordinance specifically to address this issue. We changed our noise ordinance so that we can, in fact, empower Tallahassee Police Department to allow them to deal with the issue on hand right then and there, which they actually did not have the power to do, believe it or not. So we work very closely with the police department and the sheriff's department for that much to make sure that they had the tools in place to address the issue right then and there. Now, since we implemented just a couple of months ago, we have had a tremendous success. Hasn't taken care of everything, but it's taken care of a lot of it. We've been working with a lot of the bar owners and the restaurant owners down in the urban district around College Town and around the universities where the students are up late, trying to make sure that we can all be good community partners and work together. But I think that we're going to see a significant change in the noise issues that we've had in the past with the passage of the noise ordinance, the newly revised noise ordinance that we just addressed not too long ago. It's a great question.
Thank you. We'll go to you, Ms. Leland.
Me myself, I think I wasn't really not a big fan of dressing the way the noise ordinance was, because I don't think it addresses some, but it don't address all, and it's quite kind of confusing because I think it's the way it's districted. But I have an issue with loud music too, but at the end of the day, I also like the pop-up parties. I get like late at night, the pop-up parties. No, that's something that we have to respect as residents of the city. But daytime and respected hours, like I was actually down in Frenchtown the other day, and the guy was side the road in front of somebody's house, music blasting, and the police pulled up and was like, yo, you gotta turn the music down. But at the end of the day, everybody in that area was listening to his music. So it's kind of, for me, I respect the nighttime, but we people too, so we gotta respect that, what other people want too, but not just overdoing it.
All right. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. This is an issue that's come up over the years in a lot of different ways. I think the pop-up parties and other things are significant in the last few years. And I'm actually glad that the city moved forward with revisions to the noise ordinance recently. I'm glad to hear that it's starting to have some success. That is good. I did know that TPD did not have the wasn't empowered to address those issues on the spot. So that is a good change. I'm glad we've finally done that. I think we could also work, the mayor said, working with business owners. That is a good thing, but we could actually take a step back. There were some businesses built, for example, in College Town that have big open spaces outside. And I'm not sure that we asked about noise issues when they were permitted. So if we have a business that has outside space, and hey, I'm sure we've all been to restaurants or bars or other places that has a band outside, that's very nice. But if we need to account for that, for the sound pollution at the point of construction, and really encourage our businesses to take care of that at that point. As Whitfield said, I think, there is a tough balance here because individuals have rights, play your music, things like that. A lot of us have different tastes in all kinds of music, all kinds of things we do. But the nighttime, the pop-up parties, that's a critical issue. The last thing I'm going to say is we will have people gathering someplace, particularly young people. The last First Friday down at Railroad Square, I saw a bunch of teenagers on the playground, and it reminded me of going to Governor Square Mall when I was in middle school and high school, right? Teenagers are going to gather someplace. Young people are going to gather. If we create more spaces that are safe, that control the sound, that kind of environment, maybe we're not going to see as many of these pop up. Basically, what I'm saying is I think we've taken some good steps, but we need to keep getting creative and work with our communities, with our neighborhoods that are dealing with these issues to figure out what works best for them.
All right. Thank you. Next question. Move up just a little bit. All right, so the next question deals with the recent lawsuit that was filed against the Tallahassee Housing Authority. And I lost the question, but the question dealt with how do you feel about the lawsuit? All right, here it is specifically. How do you feel about the news that the Tallahassee Housing Authority is allegedly violating the Federal Fair Housing Act? And what can we do to avoid displacing low-income residents and segregation when it comes down to housing? And I'll start with you, Commissioner Dozier.
Unmute there. So first and foremost, I want to say that in reading the article, we've got Tallahassee Housing Authority, we've got Legal Services of North Florida, we've got a lot of great organizations, and I very much respect both. I think both have done a lot of good work, and I don't want to prejudge what may come through this lawsuit. However, whether there is a lawsuit or not, I have heard concerns about how fast people were moved into, or given vouchers, and whether or not they had a place that they could move to, and about what type of places they were moving. I mean, whether or not it really fit with the community that they felt comfortable with. I've been hearing those things for a while. So it was a challenging situation. I think we need to take some lessons learned. This is unique. Perhaps we shouldn't have phased the construction, things like that, and retained some of those buildings. That would have been a difficult issue, but it's something to think about in the future because we have limited options for vouchers. So again, I am concerned about this. I think we absolutely need to reflect on whatever comes out in this information. I do think Tallahassee Housing has made a lot of progress, so I don't want to, put too much on their shoulders of their bigger job about housing in our community. But when it comes to moving people out of residence where they have been for perhaps decades, that is a really difficult situation, and it looks like we may have moved a bit too fast. So I think there's a lot more we should talk about with this, but we need a lot more information to come out. And if it gets to a lawsuit, that's a difficult position to get to, but this may have been necessary to really bring out some of this into the sunshine and let us take the right steps to correct it and ensure, problems don't
All right.
happen again in the future.
All right. Thank you. All right. I have no idea what order we're in at this point, but Mayor Dailey, same question.
Yeah, Mataki, this is one. Even though the Tallahassee Housing Authority is a separate entity from the city of Tallahassee, as the mayor, it is not appropriate for me to comment on an ongoing lawsuit, a federal Fair Housing Act lawsuit. I don't think I have enough information at this point to make any judgment calls, nor would it be appropriate for me to weigh in at this point. But I do appreciate the question, and I will say, of course, we are all concerned by what we have read and learned most recently.
Thank you, Mr. Leland.
Well, I ain't the mayor yet, so I can comment on this. If we go back and we look at what happened to 4th Avenue projects, it was 1010 North Macomb a while back. This is the same thing happened. Tallahassee Housing Authority came in promising these residents that they can get a voucher and move anywhere they want, move anywhere in the state. You even had Commissioner Richardson, oh yeah, you can get a voucher, move anywhere. Lies. They completely lied about this. And my thing is, how can you displace somebody and force a project that these people have nowhere to go? So, and even, and the mayor's right, it's two different entities, but the mayor's office has a lot of influence over what goes on at Tallahassee Housing Authorities. Whether he say that or not is true. I've talked to several residents, and I've even called and tried to talk to Miss Brenda. We're trying to work behind the scenes to figure out what's going on, and it's like nobody said anything. They want to just completely push this project through, regardless of what the residents said, what was said. And now you have over, I want to say 50 to 60% of people displaced out of those residents. Like that's terrible. So yeah, we need to really address it. And even though the mayor's office don't have any say in the Tallahassee Housing Authorities, I think we do need to look at our own, maybe look at our own programs that will be able to help residents and that need housing within the city.
All right, thank you for that. Next up, we have Miss Mary Stevens. You can unmute, you can turn your video on and you can ask your question. And we could just ask all other audience members, since we are now asking questions, you can turn on your video if you choose to. All right, Ms. Stevens.
And actually, if you could raise your hand digitally, if you would like to appear on camera and ask your question live, that will be helpful for me to find you and unmute you. So anyone who would like to ask their question live, just go down to the bottom. There's a little emoji there that says reactions, and I see Mary up there. So I'm going to unmute you, but that's how you raise your hand digitally. Down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see an emoji, and there's a way to raise your hand digitally. And I think you should be able to unmute now, Mary.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't able to before. I would just like to ask about Ms. Kristin Dozier. I saw that you had voted against COVID relief for small businesses, and I'd like to know what affected your decision to do so.
Are you talking?
Yes, you could go ahead. You have 2 minutes to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary, for the question. This is one of those procedural things that it's easy to get a talking point that I voted against it, but it takes a little extra second to say what actually happened, which was I made a motion to give the same amount of COVID relief grants to businesses with 1 to 5 employees as those with 5 or more employees. We had a few tiers. If you own a business with 1 to 5 employees, you have a lot of the same challenges, particularly at that time, right at the start of COVID, that a larger business had. You have overhead for your office, you have other things. So I wanted to move them into a different tier and allow those small businesses to qualify for more money. There was a substitute motion that kept those businesses 1 to 5, I think it was $1,500. the mayor supported that substitute motion, as did a majority of the board. So I actually was advocating for more money for small businesses. And again, this is an easy talking point from the mayor. He really loves to say that I voted against COVID relief grants. But importantly, I was advocating for more money. And why would I have voted for less money on a substitute motion? I was hoping a majority would vote against that and would come back and support more money for those businesses with 1 to 5 employees. That's the truth of it. The mayor knows it, by the way.
All right. Mayor Dailey, your response?
Oh, are we all? Okay, comment on it. Well, look, you know, sometimes in politics, we don't always get what we want. And I get that. I mean, I've been on the losing end of votes as well. We've all been on the losing end of votes. So you make a motion, your motion goes down. It's happened to all of us. So then you take up the next motion that's on the table. And so to hold a grudge and get your feelings hurt because your motion failed, therefore you'll vote against everything else that comes before us, that's just not the appropriate way to do public policy. You take every motion as it comes before it. Okay, so your motion goes down. Well, then the next motion that comes up, support it. It might not be 100% what you want or what you would have rather provided small businesses, but it's still better than nothing. Now, I was a true supporter of supporting small businesses during COVID. In fact, it was in my front yard that I called on the press conference and asked for the chairman of the county commission at the time, who was serving as the chair of Blueprint, to bring us together so that we could have this conversation. And I was very proud to support small businesses and nonprofits during COVID, because I do think those grants help keep a lot of those businesses' doors wide open. So to say that I support it, but at the end of the day, you still voted against it, well, to some it might be nuanced, to some it might be academic, to the businesses it's practical. So I'm very proud to have supported the small businesses.
And Mr. Leland, what was your position on those grants and this vote? And which way would you have went if you were involved at that time?
Well, first of all, the goal is to make sure that we try to take care of everybody, and not our own personal agendas. So to be honest, and I'm not a person that, for me, it's all about what the community. So the community was like, no, that's what I'm standing with, the majority of the community.
All right, go ahead. I hadn't reached that.
No, I'm good, bro. That's all I had to say. I stand with where the community had, you know, where they stand at. So I think personal decisions on votes, that's not politics. I mean, that's not a place for politics. I mean, your personal decision it's about what the residents want, and that's where I stand at.
All right, thank you. Next we have Dan Hendrickson. Dan, you can unmute.
Thanks. As Democrats, you know, we know that self-policing doesn't always work. Corporations and agencies sometimes need some outside accountability. So those good programs that were mentioned that do solve some of the easiest mental health diversion cases, like people that have good health insurance or something like that, we still need, and we're asking you if you will help fund, vote to fund the mental health court for felony defendants, because all we need is local money to match available federal and state money to help the judges and the state attorney and the public defenders get involved in the tough cases to help get hundreds of mentally ill citizens out of the jail without the usual interruptions and interferences and excuses that we hear. Those are tough cases, but it's going to take actual outside accountability to make that work, and that's going to require the judges getting involved, like they're doing all over the country.
So Dan, did you have a question?
Mutaki, I think he was asking if we would support funding for the mental health board.
Okay, all right, I heard it. All right, and I'll start with you, Mr. Leland.
Yes, I would. I think that plays a huge part, but I also think that both, not only, it should be a collaborative effort. Just like everybody came together for the status of men and boys, everybody need to come together and fund things like that.
All right, thank you. Mayor Dailey?
Thank you. Well, first of all, Dan, I want to thank you for all the work that you do, not only with mental health court and mental health issues, but also on the veterans issues here in our community. And sometimes they intersect as well. You have been a true advocate for many, many, many years, helping those with the legal issues and to navigate the system. And I think we can all agree that you're just a rock star, and we really appreciate it. Hey, I've been a big fan of mental health court and veterans court for many years, ever since I was on the county commission, and definitely as mayor as well. And yes, I would be more than happy to sit down and see where the city can provide more assistance, whether it's financial or programming or whatnot. It's not currently in our budget right now, and we're getting towards the crunch point of our budget. I don't know where we could fit it in or how, but of course we need to keep those lines of communication open. If there are other ways as well for the city to get involved in the judicial system to help provide, yes, absolutely. We stand ready and willing to assist.
Commissioner Dozier?
Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for bringing this forward. And I absolutely would be supportive of it and would love to learn more. I think during the time that I've been on the county commission, we have seen the veterans courts and a few different ideas come forward. Some of those didn't continue, and I think that was because of state funding. But if there's an opportunity to do a mental health court, I think we absolutely should work together and fund that. These are the types of issues that city and county should be working together on. And I really do appreciate you bringing that forward. We have a lot of good work and effort that's being done on mental health, but we all know there's so much more to do. And diversion programs and really being sensitive to these issues when they come to the courts is one of their most critical factors. I hear that from law enforcement. I hear that from others. So again, I appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
All right. And so we are at 3:15, so we have time for one last question, and that question is going to be asked by Ms. Melody Williams. Ms. Williams, you can take your phone off mute or computer off mute.
And I am trying to find you so that I can spotlight you, but I don't see you. So if you can raise your hand digitally, are you sure she's in here? She might have been a question from Facebook. I see a Madeline. Don't see a Melanie.
Okay, I know she did have a question on Facebook. Her question, well, one of the questions that I see, she wanted to ask Mr. Leland, what came of your meeting with Sheriff McNeil in regards to anatomy of a homicide?
Say that again.
What came of your meeting with Sheriff McNeil in regards to the anatomy of a homicide?
It's to be totally honest, we had a great meeting. We still talk. We haven't talked about it because it's still some behind the scenes political stuff going on. So everything not set in stone. And I think it's a lot of people behind the scenes connected to these different agencies that gave in some money, want to kind of control who and how it runs. And from the jump, Sheriff said that it had to be totally different from anything we've done before, and he's standing on that. So that's what I think is holding up, because the sources to the money, the partners, there's some discrepancy going on. So I think we're trying to work all that out. But we had a great meeting, and we're looking forward to moving forward with the status of men and boys, if that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Mayor Dailey, do you want to respond in regards to the partnership with Sheriff McNeil in regard to the anatomy of a homicide?
I've had several conversations with the sheriff, and I think that the creation of the Commission on Status of Men and Boys is crucial to this community. And Absolutely. I join my colleagues on the city commission, fully supportive and funding our part, and look forward to moving forward to seeing the success of the program. I think it's a great idea.
And Commissioner Dozier.
Mutaki, I think I covered this pretty well earlier. I have been absolutely supportive of the sheriff's efforts. I'm also glad that we gave additional funding to the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls recently. This is a broader issue and dealing with working with our partners to really dig in and get the right data and have some creative approaches and engagement with the community is critical. But the Commission on the Status of Men and Boys takes it to a new level, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that work. And if I may, are we going to have a chance for closing, or are you about to bring it to an end?
We are about to bring it to an end. So I know there's a lot that everybody wants to respond to, and there are a lot of questions that we unfortunately didn't get a chance to answer. But this has been exciting, and I want to end first by thanking the three of you for participating in this forum. I know it's not an easy job, to run for office. So many things get said, so many views are being taken, and everybody's eyes are on you. So I appreciate you all for participating not only in this forum, but to take that leap and that courage to run for office. We need public servants to do our daily routine, and if it weren't for just ordinary citizens like you all to step up and do it, we really wouldn't have city government. So I appreciate you all, and appreciate the opportunity for you all to allow me to moderate this forum. This has been our second Democratic candidate forum of 9 forums in our summer series. Forums will be held every Saturday through August 13th for our important local elections. We hope to see you at each and every one. There will be important announcements that will be presented now. Please stay on for a few more minutes. Thank you again, and I enjoyed being your moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for coming out today. Please share this event on Facebook with your friends. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, you can post it there, and we'd ask the candidates to come back and visit. We'd like to get every question answered. I think community involvement is so important. And so we are glad that you came here. We want you to invite your friends to watch this as well. You'll be able to share the video on Facebook. And right now, I believe we're going to have Kathy McGuire come up to say a few words. Kathy, can you raise your hand digitally so I can make sure that? Okay, I don't see Kathy, but hopefully she can unmute herself. She's sharing right now something that's very important. We need to be able to communicate with voters, so we're trying to raise money. You can bring your camera out and just open the photo app, and that Scan Me QR code will take you to the donation page. You can also type in that bit.ly, which I will enter in the chat.
But can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm unmuted. Thank you, Kim, for taking this forward. Before we go, I'd like to ask for your help in paying for this year's Leon Dems voter guide postcards to go to every Democratic home. Many people take these guides to the polls with them. They tell who the Dems are, even in these so-called nonpartisan races, how to vote early and by mail, and provide our helpline, which a lot of people called in 2020. As Kim mentioned, we are asking for contributions because we need to raise $27,000. The vote by mail ballots go out in just about 2 weeks on July 14th, so we need to raise the money as soon as possible. Please give what you can. You can use this QR code or the bit.ly. We're counting on Dems who can to help inform all Dems with this card and to help them vote. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kathy. And again, just thank everyone for coming out today. Please remember to vote. The primary is August 23rd, and early voting, somebody can help me on that date. I believe it starts a month out from there. But you can go to leonvotes.com and find all of those dates. Please make sure your address is up to date. And just this election is so important. So I hope everyone talks to their friends about it and gets everyone excited to vote.